Welcome to the Business Unscripted podcast. We're here to share real-life insights, practical strategies, and the honest lessons that we have learned from our own mistakes because, frankly, we have been in your shoes. So whether you need help with operations, accountability, financial knowledge, sales, or maybe just getting your mindset right, we are here, and this is the right spot for no-fluff conversations and tools that work. So grab your favorite cup of joe. Let's jump into the show. Ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Business Unscripted podcast. It is another Friday morning, and it's episode 50. I cannot believe episode 50. We talked about it last week, halfway to a century. 2 more episodes. We'll be doing this for about a year, Dwarren. So it's been fun and exciting. But you're in the right spot. As my recorded voice said, if you're a business owner, or maybe you're an aspiring business owner, and you're going through some struggles, and you're just interested in learning what you could be doing a little bit differently, or maybe you just want a different perspective. We're here. This is a spot for you. Welcome to our community. Welcome to our little tribe here. So we love you. Thank you for joining us today. We got a good conversation, I'm sure, because as the name of our podcast says, we don't follow a script. Typically, we talk maybe 1 or 2 things we might want to talk about, but Dwarren, if you listen to any of our episodes, right, we go off the rails. So Dwarren, thanks for joining us.
That tends to happen. Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, wasn't sure I was going to
be able to
make it.
It's a beautiful day in the paradise. You know what I mean? I cannot complain.
Well, it's a lovely night here.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it tonight, though. If you'd asked me in the beginning of the week, I wouldn't have been sure. For those who are not aware, I've been in moving mode. So moving house and also office, for the home office at least, for the last 2 weeks. So something I thought would take for my office move a couple of days ended up taking 4 days.
Right.
We had
the last time you moved, I mean, did you have kids at that moment? Like you probably were, just a single man with a girl, and that was it.
Yeah, pretty much. And look, 8 years we lived in the previous place. It's amazing how much crap you accumulate in 8 years. And just blew my mind. So, it's one of those scenarios where it makes it a lot harder too when it's raining constantly during that entire week. This is our second day of sunshine today since we started moving 2 weeks ago. And we were lucky to have an enclosed truck for most of it. But this last couple of days, we've just been using my Silverado and, bringing over a few loads at a time, a few loads a day rather. But yeah, it's been good. Right. Stressful, but it's nice to be in the new place. It's a little bit messy. I don't have my normal background up. I've got a blur on because I haven't got a curtain up yet. I got an old desk in the background that's got cables on it from setting up. Yeah. So forgive me, but I'm live and I'm here.
Man, we all got. It's just a reminder, you know what I mean, that you don't have to be perfect. I think we said it last week. You know what I mean, like. You don't have to literally try and be perfect every time. You just got to get started. You know what I mean? I think that's me and you why we're here. Like episode 50, you know what I mean? Because we literally just got started and now we've been doing it every single week. There's weeks where you're not able to make it or anything like that, but that's all right. We just got started and I think that's important. A lot of individuals, myself in the past, probably would have been able to use that as an excuse of, you know what, Dave, I'm not going to make it today. I'm not, things aren't ready. I don't want to look like, maybe like unprofessional or whatever you want to call it. And they would have used being, moving as an excuse to not be here this morning and missing the conversation. So I want to give you props, right, for just showing up, even when things aren't perfect in your office right now. So thanks for joining.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. I think that's life, right? Life is bloody messy, and business can be messy, right? I mean, it's just how things are. And, you mentioned kids, right? We've got 2 kids under the age of 2, an 8-month-old and a 19-month-old. So, I mean, you can imagine, like, they're into everything. They're constantly moving. You can't leave them unattended. And it is just one of those scenarios. It doesn't matter how much Miss Rachel you can put in front of them. They just...
Yeah,
we've got.
They want mommy and daddy time. You know what I mean? Even when you're trying to get something done. So,
they do, right? And it's like you just get one down and then the other one's up. It is reality. It is life, and I think that's the thing, right? When you've got work-life balance going on, if you work in an office, if you work from home, I mean, you've got a newborn in your house at the moment. You know what this is like. It is the reality of getting that balance right. And
Right.
it is not going to be as smooth as everyone sees in front of a camera sometimes. Sometimes it is messy in the background, but we make it work.
For sure. And I think that's the biggest thing. You just make it work. Nobody really knows what's going on in the background. You don't see the background of anybody else's life, right? Um, you just assume that things are perfect because they're successful, and you're in reality, you don't know what stuff going through. So what I would say, today, and we talked about this last week, we chatted about accountability, and a lot of times, clients of mine in the world of business, they want to jump to accountability and take blame for things that might go wrong with their clients, and they want to immediately say, "You know what? I'm sorry. It's all on us. Like we'll fix it," because they're afraid of losing that person as a client. And we talked about last week about how you want to maybe pull back a little bit, give it a little bit of minute to rest and actually analyze the situation, and then have the conversation with your client or your partner, however it ends up being. I gave an example last week of a business partner. But Warren, it's funny because we were talking pre-show. This was actually, impactful to you. So why don't you walk through kind of the situation that happened like right before the podcast, and then how you are now because of that kind of pulling back for a minute, and where you are with that client now.
Yeah, sure. So, like, just literally minutes after joining the pre-show last week, I got a message through on an instant messaging platform that I use for work from one of my clients, and it was something as simple as an emoji, and it was an unhappy face emoji. So, first thing I think is someone's got fat fingers. That's me all the time. I hit the wrong emoji all the time.
Yeah.
No big deal. Screenshot, send it back, question mark. Then I get this message back where it was actually, no, I meant to do that. I'm not happy. This is how I interpreted what you said previously. Oh, okay. Forcing me to actually take a moment and read through everything that I was doing. Now, I was in a situation at that point where I was about to go live. So I was talking with you, Dave, and pre-show, and I'm like, mentioned it. And I'm like, and you're like, hey, you know what? Let's just do the show. We'll come back and we'll talk about it afterwards if you need to, and we can go back. So my response was, hey, look, I'm about to go live on a podcast. I'll come back to you after this. And that became part of our topic for the conversation last week without going into too many details during that show. But after the show, I was able to read through it, and I went through it with yourself. I pulled my wife in, and I was having a chat with her and showed her, and we all agreed that nothing was said that was of concern at that point.
Right.
And it might have just been something was taken out of context or something or rather. So I took that moment, like we talked about, had a think, and I recorded on the app a 4 or 5 minute message, just basically, hey, look, this is, don't know what's happened here, but this is what my intention was. And I'm sorry if you felt that, that way about what I'd said. That certainly wasn't the intention. This is what I was actually referring to. I did this in a recording because, you know what? It's easy to tell what my tone is in a recording, and sent that through. And surprisingly, the next day I get a message back, and it was like, hey, you know what? I had a really tough time lately. I've got a newborn at home, and just like we were talking about before, and
Now
I'm
you
spending a
guys can
lot of time
relate
with a
on something,
newborn.
right? So now you guys are actually
Yes.
instead of just
Yes.
being at each other like, "Oh my god, like I can't believe you said this. I can't believe you took it this way." You actually were able to settle back, and now you're at a place of, connection.
Absolutely. There was a common ground there, and I lent into that a little bit. And I asked him, like, how's things going? You getting much sleep? How's your wife doing? You guys taking it in turns? And it turns out it was a second kid, so they got a 4-year-old as well. So it's not 4 years. I've got an 19-month-old, and an 8-year-old. So I totally get it. The 8-year-old's kind of independent, does his own thing, whereas the 19-month-old and the 4-year-old a little bit similar in the way they need attention and definitely need watching. But yeah, it was interesting. And as we started chatting, and it was just he was chatting with me on the Messenger app, and because he had the baby sleeping there, and he couldn't take the call at risk of waking the baby.
Right.
It was in his arm. So we're having a chat, and it turns out there was actually a few concerns going on his business front. And when I spoke to him about it, it was more just changes that he had a lot of downtime because he couldn't actually work while you doing baby duties, right? You know what it's like when you got a baby, you can't really just go and sit on the computer and start typing and doing things at full speed. It's kind of a little bit of a half speed. Stop, pause, baby moved, make sure it doesn't move the wrong way. Can't make too much noise, can't get on a call. So it's like he felt very hamstrung at that point. But what ended up happening was we had a really good breakthrough moment where I was able to talk to him about some suggestions on how we could do some things in his business. He was really appreciative of it. We ended up pushing forward with the original plan of services that we were going to do in the first place. He actually reduced what his requirements were, and actually we're able to deliver we're able to deliver what he wants basically sooner,
Right.
which is great. And we'll build up to what he wants long term. So it was really interesting. And then, like I was saying to Dave just before this call, a few hours ago, I was on a video call with him with another client. We're having a three-way conversation, and we're having a great time talking about everything. We're on a really good space now. And then earlier today, we're both on baby duties, looking after babies, and we're messaging each other and sharing pictures and go, well, this is what my view looks like at the moment. I'm trying to make sure my toddler doesn't jump off the bed and hit her head, which seems to be a constant battle. And he's like, yeah, I've got a 4-year-old pulling on my leg constantly wanting to play, or my newborn wants to constantly fight to wake up. So it was interesting. We found that common ground. But I think if I had done what could have been my instinct initially, which was to jump in and start defending myself and, being defensive about it rather than step back and do what we talked about in that last episode and just think about my actions before I took action, I think it could have been a very different outcome.
Right.
We're all in a really good place right now again. And it just goes to show, right, you don't know what's going on in someone else's world. You don't know what sort of day someone's had up until now.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, then you can make one misstep can cause someone to react differently to what you normally react to. And sometimes just taking that moment to take a step back and just go, you know what? Let me just see what's going on here. This is not normal. This feels a bit off. Let me see if I can reevaluate this and come at it from a different angle.
And it's nice. It's interesting you say that, right? Because I've said this a lot to people, and you could be walking down, the street, and you don't know what's going on. I think I actually shared it on my brother's birthday. Who passed, Jesus, 26 years ago. It's crazy. But I just shared it because you never know ultimately what that person's going through on that day. You don't know what they're struggling with internally. And if your immediate response, like in that situation, knowing myself in the past, like probably would have been like, well, what do you mean? Like, I said this exactly what we talked about. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
maybe they would have then even felt more attacked, And so I like what you kind of did with the video message, which is important because I think the tonality is so important in conversations and in connection. And when you're able to have a calm conversation with somebody, sometimes they're going to be irrational and they're not going to listen anyways. But at least you know that you controlled, kind of your side, and that's all you can really control ultimately. And so in your situation here, it's great because you were able to, you were kind of forced, but you were able to take that like hour break and then come back to the conversation with a clearer mind. And then in that moment, you're like, wait, let me just do a video so you can understand exactly what I'm trying to say. And then you went ahead and you kind of move forward with it, right? And now you're in a good spot where you said he signed up for services, that, there's no more disappointment. He's completely on board. And now you are in a good position to make him a raving fan of your services and your support, which who knows what that's going to bring you in the future. So I wanted to literally, as you kind of mentioned that pre-show, just recap that from last week. I know we didn't kind of dive into a lot of the details with it because it was something that was going on like with our clients and but you specifically, and then now it had a happy ending, which is good to hear. So
yeah, and look, I'm sure it's not always going to be the case, but I'll tell you what, whether you're forced to or you choose to, just taking that moment. Thank you, Jackson. Jordan.
Thanks, Jackson. You have a good one, dude, sir.
That moment you managed to take and just reflect on the scenario and the situation can be huge. How many times have you opened up an email, read it, got really upset and irate, and then go back and reread it an hour later and go, oh shit, I really overreacted the first time.
Right. Well, and here's the thing that you did too that I want to point out as well. And I mentioned Jeremy Miner and his NEPQ model all the time because I've gone through the training. But what you did is kind of the same way that you would do in person, and somebody's saying like, "Hey, man, I really am upset with you." You just kind of like upset, and you were curious. And what did that prompt him to do? It prompted him then to respond in what he was actually feeling.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing in person. If you're having a conversation, if somebody says, I'm stressed, well, stressed, what is that? Like, by just simply repeating that emotional word back, it in their mind, so, oh, they want to know more information. Let me tell them a little bit more about it. And now they can open up a little bit. So it's really interesting what you did in terms of you took an emoji and turned it into kind of that same context by just copying it and question mark, which would be the text version of, that without the tone, because you obviously can't do tone. But then he opened up and he kind of told you a little bit more about what the issue was. And so if you're listening to this, don't feel bad if you find yourself being in that situation where you're quick to react, or maybe you're quick to take accountability, because we've both been there, Dwarn and I. But now use this as your kind of reminder of, hey, let me just set anytime I want to remind myself, or if I want to respond to anybody, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes, right? I'm going to give myself 10 minutes and then come back to it, reread it. Do you still have the same feelings towards it? Because more often than not, you're going to see it in a more clear mindset because you didn't let yourself get into that emotion right away. And I don't remember where I saw this, but it's really important. And again, I'm not like any sort of like psychologist, but that first 5 to 10 seconds of when you first feel an emotion, if you let yourself go down that emotion even further, you're stuck in it. Right.
Yeah.
But if you can break the pattern of initially feeling it, recognizing, getting away from it, you're not going to, the likelihood of you going back into that emotion when you go back to that situation is going to be slim. So
it's interesting you should say that. Like, I saw a video the other day, which was quite interesting. It was a guy sitting there and got splashed. And I think I shared this video with you. And he gets splashed, and then the guy sitting on a lawn chair next to him gets splashed as well. And the guy on the lawn chair is like totally cool. And the guy who's walking on the sidewalk's like, hey, are you kidding? That guy just totally splashed me on purpose. You got splashed as well. You must be so mad right now. And he goes, nah, I'm good. No, you have to be mad. He just did that on purpose. He didn't have to do that. That you should be really mad about that. He goes, nah, I'm good. And then he says to him, he goes, so here's $1,400. Bang. Well, oh, that's cool. So I'm going to ask you a question. You've lost $1. You've now got $1,399. Are you going to burn that whole $1,399? Hell no. And he's like, but that's what you're doing with your time, man. You've got 1 minute of bad time in your entire day, 1 out of 1,400 minutes in a day, and you're choosing to ruin the rest of your day because of that. You wouldn't give up $1,399. So why would you give up 1,399 minutes of your day getting upset about that situation? Try and let it go. And I was like, whoa, that's a clever way of looking at it, right? And
the other one too that for somebody that, and it's kind of like on the same premises that I really, it hits, and the dollar amount really, I guess, doesn't really matter. But, Dwarren, if I give you $5 million, will you take it?
What's the catch? See, we
Okay,
go
you're a
straight to
business
that.
owner, right? Okay, so yes, I'm going to give you $5 million, but you don't wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd rather wake up tomorrow.
Okay, and I think in the video it was like 10 million or whatever, but it could be $1 million, it could be 150,000, whatever it is. Basically, whatever that value is, right? Is you are now telling yourself, hey, that's my life. I'm literally worth that much. Even if if I've said $1 billion, I don't think anybody would take $1 billion to not wake up tomorrow. I don't think there's
the
no
only
money in the
scenario
world.
that makes sense. Well, the only scenario that makes sense, right, is if you're sitting on death row and you're meant to be executed in a couple of days, and you could leave that money to your family to give them a better life, or to the victims that you caused grief to. That makes sense. Or if you're got a terminal illness potentially, and you want to leave something to help someone, that makes sense. But the average person outside of those scenarios is going to do exactly what we just did. They're going to go, I value my life.
There is literally no monetary value that you could say to me, okay, let me make, I guess, like if somebody said $1 trillion, sure. I'll give it to my family, and let them do with it. Like, they can do better without me, probably, with $1 trillion. But more often than not, like, there is a vast sum of money that a lot of you are going to say no to. And put that in perspective. It means your life, your ability to wake up, to breathe, to go on with another day is worth more than that sum of money. So if you don't have that sum of money, why are you feeling bad about yourself? Right? Why are you not happy that you're, kind of in the, journey of life to build something? You have that choice. And I say this to so many people all the time. You have the choice to decide how you're going to react to a particular situation. Whether it's anger, whether it's, being stressed, whether it's, being overwhelmed, you have that choice. And yes, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, but how do you choose to live your life? If I could live my life and be angry all the time, or, be quick to react to any situation, because I have so many things going on, because I'm a business owner, which a lot of people don't understand. As a business owner, you have to think of everything. You're not an employee anymore. But you have that choice to say, you know what, I'm going to live every single moment of my day happy, because you know what, my life is worth more than 10 million. My life is worth more than 100 million, because you wouldn't give up your life just to have that money today and not wake up tomorrow. So when you put that shit in perspective, hopefully, it actually will, can change your emotions, change your ability to see the world a little bit differently when you think of it that way.
I totally agree. And I think if we go back one step as well to you don't know what's going on in other people's worlds. How many times have you gotten home from work, you've had a pretty emotionally draining day, and you get home and your significant other is there and you just want to tell them about your day. And you fail to acknowledge the fact that they're home looking after the kids. Maybe they've had a really shitty day as well. And first thing that happens, as soon as you walk in, I need you to take the trash out. I need you to go and do this. I need you to get this done. And you're like, shit, are you kidding me? I just got home. I'm just getting settled. I've had a really shitty day. And we don't stop and think, hold on, what sort of day did they have? Because we're quick to react. Since that meeting, conversation we had last week.
But that's not both sides. I'm going to be the devil's advocate on
that. No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think since we had that conversation last week, right, I've been sitting there watching my wife struggle with 2 babies some days in the middle of this move. And there's things that I'll walk in and go, hey, can I do this? And she'll be like, I just need to get this done. Can you help me out? Yep. Right. All right, I'll do it. Then other days I'm like today, I'm like, hun, I need to be at the desk for the whole day. I've got so much work to catch up on. She's like, it's all good. I'll handle everything over here. Sometimes if you both got that understanding and partnership, whether it's business relationship, it can make things go so much smoother.
See,
It is so
that's
rare
key
to find that.
Is the partnership, right? Because if you are, and it doesn't matter the sex, right? But if you are the business owner that's coming home and immediately your partner is just expecting everything from you, like that's not a good partnership, right? You have to sit down with it and have a good heart to heart and kind of figure out like they in that moment they do not understand what's going on. Now, granted, if you're also coming home and you just think that you're going to sit on the couch and not do anything, you also are not a good partner. But there is a very vast difference of you coming home, whether you're a man or woman, and your spouse coming up to you and the first thing that they do is not, hey, I need you now to go do this. I need you to take over this. I need you to go do that, right? If they come up to you and their first reaction to you is affection, right? Is love, is appreciation that you're home, and eagerness to tackle the rest of the day with you, there is a huge difference in that versus somebody that's going to come home and immediately you come home by be like, oh, the trash is there. Can you take that out? I need you to go do this. I need you to go to that. Can you go check this? Can you go check that? Like, are you serious? That's not a partner. That's somebody that's just waiting to unload on you. And
Yeah,
you literally don't have the capacity for that. And many people are going to say, well, they're home and they're taking care of the kids. They got a lot going on. You're right. They do. I'm not saying that they don't. But when you're in a partnership, that's the key that me and Dwarren are talking about here is a good partnership. Is that when that partner comes together, you're not first figuring out what can I get them to do for me. You're figuring out how can we come together for this moment and appreciate each other and then move forward and then figure out what needs to be done after that. There's a big difference of the first 10, 15 minutes, letting them go. Like, it's huge just to be able to come home, right, and not be bombarded and just to, give a hug, give a kiss. How was your day? Right? What happened today? Were you able to sign any new clients? How was that meeting that you told me that you were going to have? And then on our side, how are the kids today? Did anything happen? Was anything exciting today that they did? Or how was the doctor's appointment I wasn't able to go to? Right? And now you're having a conversation. And then, hey, oh, by the way, would you mind taking the trash out? Or don't say it at all. They know their job. Like I know, let them do it. And the problem is with so many sides and is when you decide to get up and just be like, oh my God, he's just not going to do the trash now. It's because it's just not your timeline. That's the problem, right? Is like nobody said that it wasn't going to get done. It just they didn't do it for you. And so if you're like, oh my God, they're never going to do that, right? They're never going to wash the dishes, or they're never going to, change the laundry, or whatever it ends up being that you have an expectation of the, and then you just go ahead and do it. It's just because it's not being done on your timeline. And so now, you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what's going on in their mind. And so it kind of goes into this whole conversation, right? Of give the expectation of, hey, would you mind getting this done by tonight? And then let it go. Let them
set
figure it out.
expectations. And that's in business too, right? When we have staff, set an expectation. Do you know, I was having a conversation with a client during the week, and one of the things that came up was about KPIs. And he's like, I think I need to set KPIs for my staff. And I said, it's a great idea. It's basically giving them a compass, tells them what your expectations are, lets them understand what your expectations are, lets them know how they can succeed in what they're doing. And they're not just going through the motions. And he's like, yeah, but I don't want to I don't want to micromanage them. And I went, well, I don't see how that's micromanaging if you're setting KPIs and standards. It's actually giving people direction and helping them know what your expectations are. And you'd be surprised how much more relaxed and calm people are when they know what they're expected to do when they turn up. There's a reason why some of these more menial jobs that people have, they enjoy them because it's very routine. Many years ago, I used to run I was a 2IC, second in charge manager for a retail outlet. And we sold appliances and home audio, TVs, computers, all that sort of wonderful stuff. And every morning, every store manager or assistant store manager, our job was to pull the team together. And it could be, anywhere between 12 and 30 of them on the floor that each day. And we'd pull the team together and we'd have a little huddle and we'd go through and we'd hand out a job sheet to each team leader for each department. And that was basically their list of priority tasks to get done for the day. And then we'd sit there and we'd just remind everyone, we'd all be reminded about what our, expectations were for the store. If a client, if clients come within so far, make sure we just greet them. And, just be pleasant, be helpful, and always willing to help and clean up messes when you see them and just simple stuff, right? Look out for other people on the floor or in other departments who might need assistance. It's all about the customer experience. That meant everybody on the floor, we knew what we were going to do that day. Whether I was getting that delivered by the manager or I was doing the delivery, we all knew what we were going to achieve. And it was great. It was motivational. The amount of times that I see people turn up to work and they don't have a list of tasks to do, they just assume they know what the business owner just assumes they know what to do. Right. Or the business owner has no systems and SOPs and then just assumes that everybody's going to understand what they want to do. It's a lack of communication. It's a lack of clear understanding. And when you have that in any form of relationship,
if you've been an employee, right, and now you own your business, just put yourself back into your employee shoes when you're reporting up to a manager. If they had expectations of you or they had standards of you and they never communicated those to you, how did you feel? Were you able to get your job done, or were you always kind of walking on eggshells because you didn't know if what you were doing today was correct or if you're going to get yelled at because there was some unknown expectation? So KPIs are a standard, okay? They're not maybe I should implement KPIs. They are a standard, especially when you start getting into new departments and multiple departments when you start to run a business, not run a job. I think so many people, if they're against KPIs, it's because they're still running a job. They're putting themselves in the day-to-day way too much, and you can't do that. So if you want to run a business, you have to develop KPIs for each one of your different departments, for each one of your different employees and your managers, so that all they have to do is report those to you. Okay, and then you now have, as a CEO, as a president, right, of the business, a snapshot of what's actually happening. And then when something's off, dive into it with the employee, dive into it with the manager, whoever it may be for that situation. But KPIs, if you want to own a business, even if you're a solopreneur and your goal is to do it, now is the time to develop the KPIs. Develop KPIs for yourself. And I said this before, you are your own manager. So you have to take time away to be a manager to yourself, right? Give yourself an evaluation and sit down and say, you know what? How was the last month of work that I did? If I was my own employee, would I be writing myself up? Would I be, maybe even putting myself on a final written warning because I let myself slack too much? I didn't meet any of my objectives. I'm falling behind on all my work. If you had an employee like that, would you keep them? And if that's how you're acting in your own business, why would you expect to be great when any other manager would fire you?
And the other thing is, you're a reflection of that to your staff. So if your staff see you as that sort of person, what do you think that's going to mean for them? They're going to see that as a reflection of what your expectations are. It's no different to when you're, clients. If they see you as that sort of person, they're going to see that as a reflection of the output you put out, of the services you provide. So I think if anyone out there struggling with the idea of putting KPIs in their business, start really, really simple. What's important for you to know about what people are doing in your business? That's what you want to start with your KPI reporting around, because you just want to capture important information that you don't have to go out and look for yourself. You want it to be captured and presented to you on a regular interval, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, that's your choice. And then just have that reported to you. The biggest thing that I hear from business owners all the time and managers is, what do I need to get reported on? Well, what's important to you? What are you
Right.
looking for? As oh, they're not doing their job, or oh, they could be doing better here. Oh, how did that get missed? Those things are going to generally give the idea where you should be basing those KPI stats around. And if you find yourself wanting results on those things measured and you can't do it because there's a problem with presenting the KPIs, then that gives you the instance to go and figure out what that problem is and find a solution or improve your systems around that to get that KPI delivered, because those KPIs are how you're going to be able to measure and scale in the future. Like you said, whether you're a single, if you've got a VA, if you've got multiple staff, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Like I used to be one of these people, yeah, KPIs, whatever, that's for big businesses. And then I had my sales team and I'm like, no, I'm setting KPIs for my sales team. And then I had my development team and I'm like, well, I'm going to set some KPIs for the development team. And then I started insisting that my clients who bring on outsourced staffing introduce KPIs, because how else are we going to evaluate their performance? We're not going to wait until 6 months, 12 months, and they go, hey, how did they perform? Oh, based on what I can remember, this is no, because a person sitting across from you who's being evaluated, they want to have a clear expectation. Well, I was able to get 16 quotes this month and I closed 8 of those deals. And I was able to do 60 email outbound appointment settings, whatever that might be. Whatever those KPIs need to be, they know what those are and they can aim towards them. If they have nothing to aim towards, well, you're telling them that, just go and do whatever you want.
And I think many business owners fall into the trap, and I did this very early on too. They fall in the trap of thinking, well, I hired them for my business. They're going to be so involved in my business just like I am. They're going to be 100% bought in, ready to go. And they're there for a job. They're there for a paycheck. So
Yeah,
the human nature is to try and do the least amount of effort for the max amount of gain. So if you're going to pay them an hourly rate, no matter what, they're essentially going to give you the minimum amount of effort to get that full paycheck. But if you give them KPIs and then you're holding them accountable to those KPIs, now they know what the standard is. They know what the minimum is now. They're going to give you that. And they're probably going to, maybe sometimes you're going to find the people that might give you a little bit more, right? Or maybe even a lot more, but those are the ones you want to like really identify. And then we'll talk about here like by 2 types of employees that you want to look for. But you have to understand that. And if you don't set that minimum, people are going to literally give you the minimum. They're going to give you the least amount that they think, and it may not even be anywhere near what you need from them, right? And so to go to that point of the people that, when you set a KPI, the ones that are going to exceed it, you have 2 types of employees. And I've said this, and I say this to everybody all the time, especially if they're growing and they're hiring employees, or I'm talking to a group of, corporate managers. You need to have 2 types of employees in your business. And it is a rock and a rock star. The rocks are the employees who are okay where they're at. They love doing the repetition. They love going through their day-to-day, their responsibility. They're not looking to level up. They're not looking to become a manager. They are literally there because they love what they do. They love who they're around, and they know their process. They know their place. They're rocks. You need them because those are the people that are going to make your business hum. And when you have somebody in your business like that gets the job done and does that, kind of admin work, that, the back end office work that needs to be done, and they're doing it great, reward them for that. Like, don't expect them to, their reward is not becoming a manager and leveling up. Their reward is either monetary, acknowledgement, something like that. You have to understand who your rocks are. But then you have your rock stars. And your rock stars are the ones that they want to be challenged. They're looking to climb the corporate ladder. They want to become your managers. They want to become your C-suite, individuals, or, eventually maybe actually go and do their own thing, right?
Yeah.
There, you have to cultivate those as well. Like, you can't try and keep your rock stars down in your business by giving them rock responsibilities. You're going to lose them a lot earlier than if you were to actually cultivate them and let them level up within your organization. So early on, and this is why it's so important to have like one-on-one conversations, regular meetings, is really begin to understand what is important to them. How do they, gain acknowledgement? Do they prefer monetary, motivation? Do they prefer, extroverted, external motivation, right? where, maybe it's an acknowledgement in a meeting, or, a parking spot for some people, whatever it may be. But understand who they are, and then don't try and give rock responsibilities to rock stars, or don't give rock star responsibilities to rocks. You're not, that's not, you're never going to build a successful business, successful culture that way. And when I came into 2 teams, I noticed that first things I ever did was to understand who my people were. Understand what are your responsibilities, what makes you tick, and each one of those situations had the roles were wrong. The responsibilities were wrong for the individuals they were given to. And as soon as I was able to kind of make that shift, as soon as I was able to give rocks their rock responsibilities, give rock stars their rock star responsibilities, the team motivation, the team, morale went up significantly because of that. So,
because you're recognizing people for what their skill sets are and their attitude is and what they want to achieve. And you're right about the rock stars. People get worried about rock stars in their business and either shy away from hiring them, or they keep them down thinking they're going to try and keep them in the job for longer. The reality is, I learned this a long time ago. Stop hiring people with an expectation they'll never leave. Start hiring for the skill set you need in your business. You're hiring a skill set, not just a person. You're hiring a skill set. Yes, they are people, but they have a skill set that is unique for your business that you need. So hire for the skill set, and basically treat it like you're hiring a skill set. So if they were to leave, you need to replace that skill set. Now, when you've actually got rock stars in your team, that's a great opportunity to mentor, to help grow, to have people to take things off your plate and nurture that. Go with that. You can't have a whole team of rock stars. It's just not going to work.
It's never going to work. You need both. You need both.
You need a combination of both.
So many people, not even business owners, I think this is more to like the managers, right? The leaders. When they see a rock star in their team, there's one of 2 ways that they look at it. If you're a great leader, you see it as a benefit because you know that you're a rock star and you're trying to level up and you want to get to that next level. So what is the best way for you to get to the next level? Is for you to train and cultivate the person to take your job, who's then still going to report to you. So why wouldn't you recognize that rock star in your business? Because you shouldn't be afraid of training somebody to take your job, because if you are looking to level up, you should be also looking to leave that position. You know what I mean? And so you need to train somebody to take your position. But so often, most people are like, oh my God, I don't want to lose my job. I'm not going to train that person to take my job. And they try to keep them down and they end up losing them. And then now they have a team filled with rocks. And now when they do want to level up and they want to grow and they want to move up, they force a rock to become a leader. And that's not what motivates them. Yeah, I've seen it all too many times. I've heard it from, people telling me about their positions and their jobs and their teams. And I'm just like, and then they tell me how horrible the new boss is or the new leader manager, who was just somebody that was a coworker that's now moved up into a manager, because that's that natural progression, even though they really didn't want to be. And they realize that they don't have good leadership skills. They don't know how to handle right situations. They don't know how to motivate other people, because it's not what motivates them. It's not what makes them tick. So why do we force that natural progression that they have to be a manager in order to make the most of their self, the most of their career? And
I've had that situation before in the past, and I've done it with my team, and I've learned, that some people are just not natural born leaders, and it doesn't matter how much training you give them. If they don't want to be a leader, then don't force them. So you should always ask the question how they feel about that. A lot of people will take the leadership role because it comes with a promotion and money. But you're right. Sometimes your rocks, just give them the money and don't need to give them the promotion, or give them the accolades that they deserve, for the work well done. I had a situation, nearly 18, 19 years ago. I sat down, a recruiter put me in front of a sales manager for a company, and it was a waste management company, and and he sat there and he was interviewing me. He goes, look, you're great. I think you'd be great in the role. Yeah. You'll definitely fill this, if you had that region, I think you do really well with it. My only concern is one thing. There's only one job up from this, and that's my job.
Yeah.
And I have a 10-year plan. I don't plan on moving for the next 10 years. So let me get back to you. I followed up with the recruiter, and the recruiter said, he's very worried about you taking his job. I'm like, I don't want his job. I just want the job I'm applying for. And he's like, he's very worried you're going to take his job. And I'm like, why? That's not what I want.
And that tells you a lot about the manager too. Definitely insecure. Definitely not, set in their own thing. But that's just
right. And I was just thinking about that when you were explaining the story. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. And it's weird because like I've been in other companies where they want you to take that initiative. They want you to grow. They want you to develop. They want you to create new things. They want you to lead a team. They want to nurture you. And if I look at my current leadership team in my business and the new leadership we're bringing in, like we're hiring really top-notch leadership. We're not promoting from within if they're not ready. We're taking the people within and we're really bringing them up and getting them where they need to be. And we're doing that, and it's working really, really well. In the past, we've tried hiring in what looked like good people from the outside that just didn't work and didn't have the skill set. So we've done it enough times now that we know what we're looking for. And I'm sure you're sitting out there listening and going, look, I've tried hiring a manager and it didn't work. Sometimes it just seems easier to hire the person inside the company who knows the most, but it's not. It just means you've hired the wrong person.
Right. So do you give up? Do you say, oh, you know what? I'm just done hiring. I'm just not going to fill the position. No, like just because you fail, like how many times, like, I don't know. Like it's a lot of times I'm just like, man, try again. Like stop. Like you only fail when you stop getting back up.
Some roles, exactly. And some roles are really bloody tough to fill, especially the higher up the chain you try and hire.
And
you just
think about too, like when you're talking to manager position, you know what I mean? Like ultimately, what's your like, why did that person fail? And I just did a presentation on this yesterday, and it's about your culture was a piece of it. And exit interviews are what people kind of hang their hats on. Somebody's leaving the organization. Hey, I'm ready. Like, let's do an exit interview. Let's figure out why you're leaving, right? That's the autopsy. You're literally at that moment, like you're saying, how our relationship, it's dead with that employee. Let's just go ahead and do an autopsy of what happened and figure out why they left. Well, why do you want to have autopsies in your business? Focus on it. What and I mentioned this yesterday, was a stay interview. Why is it not more common for HR teams or managers to have these conversations with these employees about, hey, how do you feel about how things are going? How, is there anything that we might be able to do better for you? Is there anything that you feel like would help you be better in your job? These are questions that I asked on a regular basis to my team when I was doing the one-on-ones. Can I do anything better for you? Is there anything that you need from me that's going to help you, obtain and achieve the responsibilities that you're supposed to do? And by just doing that, it developed the culture of the team, which is why, like, for me, the best thing that an employee can do in terms of like your loyalty, et cetera, is when you leave a job and the employee says, can I come join you? Because they want to follow you. Like that tells you how great you built that relationship. And so, and you do that because you do these stay interviews. You don't wait until the relationship is dead. You wouldn't wait until, well, I guess some people might, right? Because it's just common culture, but you wouldn't wait until like your relationship's over to try and figure out, hey, how do we like get better? And if your partner is just like, I don't know, like that's not, again, is it a good partnership at that point? Because they're not willing, you're trying to level up, you're trying to help them get better and level up, and their only response to you is, I don't know, like I just want to be where I'm at. Like,
it's interesting actually. This raises an interesting concern. One reason that I've seen and heard personally that a lot of business owners will not ask that question of their staff or have their team, their team members in HR, etc., ask those questions, or managers, is because they're worried that the staff are going to ask for too much. They're worried about what are they going to ask for. ironically, the big companies that I've seen and the small companies that I've seen across the board who do ask this question, it's generally never like, I want to earn more money, which is what the common theory is for a lot of these businesses. It'd be great to have, team building a little bit more often. It'd be great to, be able to come in dressed, casually on, once a week or something.
It'd be great to have the coffee machine back that the team cut out, right? Because they wanted to cut back money. So they cut back giving free coffee. Like it's those perks that are important that you're going to hear. And in reality, being as part of the executive teams that's had these conversations, you as a human are going to always think the worst things. You're going to think the worst case scenario of the results of these surveys, and it's never going to be that bad. The one thing I remember when I first came into like one of my leadership positions at a bigger organization that led up to, executive position, was I wanted a 360 survey. I wanted a 360 evaluation put in place. And there was absolute like rejection of that idea from the levels above me. And I'm like, why? They're like, oh, we don't do that. We don't want to give the employees like that much, power. And I'm like, what do you mean, like power? Like, why would I not want to know what my employees are thinking of my performance, not as much as like my managers think of my performance? And ultimately, they still never did it. And it's one of those things where it just always rubbed me, I guess, the wrong way. Like, why are you so worried? Like, those are your people that you're supposed to be leading. And if you don't care about what they see of you and what they think of you, why should they even care what you think of them? And so if you're not wanting to level yourself up to lead better, you're not a good leader. So and in order to do that, you need to have the view of everything that you have leadership of. Not just, hey, am I meeting the responsibilities of the people above me? No, I want to get the feedback from, the levels below me. So, I just did it myself, right? I just told them, hey, this is an anonymous survey. Like, it's not going to be, your names aren't associated with it, but I'd love to just kind of get your guys's, kind of feedback and let me know what you think, and so I just did it myself. I just went around, screw it. I needed to know that. I needed to know how to become a better leader, and my team had to tell me what they thought. And so it improved. Like, not everything was, roses and unicorn kisses, you know what I mean? But it helped me.
And sometimes it's simple shit, right? I mean, it'd be great if you could communicate better when you're asking for us to do tasks. And you're like, well, shit, well, where am I failing at that? It gives you a reevaluate. There was a surgeon.
That was the number one reason. You know how I say the question thing, where I say, just ask questions. That's where I got it from. Because I was in my meetings, I would say things because in my head, I see it clearly, like you see it in your head clearly, but sometimes I don't talk through it enough, or I say it way too high enough. Yeah. And so that's where I got the feedback. Hey, sometimes like we would appreciate it if you kind of like maybe slow down or, gave a little bit more detail. And that's where my feedback to them was, okay, I get it. I see things in my head. Let's make sure we ask a bunch of questions as well. Like, I'm going to leave it open and there's no bad question. Like, let's get on the same page before we go and do a project. And from there, like everything that's where we kind of came up with that solution. And now, boom, now I use it with everybody. I tell everybody that's new working with me that one of my things for me is I can see it up here quickly. But if you're not on the same page with me, ask a question until you are clear that you know what I'm looking for. And if you're not, and then you tell me you are, it's going to be like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's going to be, one of my pet peeves. So.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think this is the thing it really comes down to, you've got to open up the communication channels in both directions. And it's not a unilateral communication, which is what a lot of companies try and do with their leadership and management styles, I find. And I've been in companies like that before, and it's just staff feel unheard, they feel uncomfortable. And sometimes that'll work, I guess, for a little while, but a lot of the times it doesn't work. And if you're going to run teams and if you see high turnover, it's typically related to that. It's related to they don't have clear expectations. They don't have KPIs. They don't know what their job is. They don't appreciate that the fact that they can communicate up as well as down the channels. And it's got to be an open channel of communication within reason as for these things. We're not talking about, hey, I'd like to get, a Starbucks coffee every day that I turn up to work. No, that's not what they're going to do. A lot of people are very reasonable in their request. We had a situation there, and it's amazing. We used to, when we ran the office with about 25, 30 people in it, we used to do every second Friday, I Love Friday. And it was just a little initiative we put in where the company would buy lunch for everyone. And we'd all come together for the lunch break, and we'd have lunch together, chit chat, hang out, all levels, and it'd just be fun. Everyone looked forward to it. We'd announce in the morning what that was going to be so they could be prepared for it. And they knew they were going to get a half decent meal that day, which was fun. Well, it's really hard when you've got a remote team to do the same thing. It's not like you can jump on Food Panda, Uber, or whatever and send everyone a meal to their house. Send everybody
a meal, yeah.
It's a little awkward. So we had a situation where it was a terrible rainy day. And I was working in the office. It was just one of those days I was feeling like, this is shit. I hate this sort of weather. I had people, other members of the household, trying to move furniture and stuff in the rain. It was horrible. And I've looked on the camera at the office, and I've seen everyone down there, and they're all rugged up, cold, wearing jackets and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I know what they need. Everybody needs a coffee. So we had 11 staff working out of the office that day. I contacted one of my team members and said, hey, just a quick head count. Can you confirm how many people are in the office today? And can you also just confirm everybody drinks coffee? Got a heads up? Yep. Yeah. All right, cool. Let me place an order. Jumped on the food delivery platform called Food Panda here. No coffee shop was delivering because there was localized flooding all around the place. That rain was that heavy. And I was like, oh, shit, this is really bad. So I contacted my person back in the office and, hey, look, the 7-Eleven across the road, do they sell coffee? Let me check. So they went across the road, took a photo. Sure enough, they sell a variety of hot coffees. I said, all right, ask everyone in the office what they want. I'll just send you some, Gcash, which is like the virtual currency.
Yeah.
Go and buy everyone a coffee.
Love it.
Cost me like $20 US, right? To buy coffees for everyone. I didn't expect anything. And then suddenly I'm getting a flood of messages from everybody individually saying, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We needed that. It just woke us up, warmed us up. And suddenly the whole office, when I checked the camera about an hour later, very different atmosphere. Everyone's chatty, lively, talking. And I'm not saying you have to do that sort of stuff all the time, but just when you do these things, the staff will appreciate it. And it's those little things. It's not always about putting more money in their pocket, in their paycheck or their pocket.
I think the biggest thing, kind of on that thing, every Friday for me was donuts. So I brought donuts in every Friday morning. They loved it. The other thing we implemented, kind of along what you were saying, right, is every month we did a team lunch, and it was. They picked where we wanted. Like it rotated between, the employees of picking where we were going to lunch that month. And when we were there, we didn't talk business, right? It was what's going on. It was a team building exercise, and people loved that because, again, as a manager, like the status quo is that you are this, your whip and your collection, your whip, and you're leading from behind. But if you want to actually be successful, and only just talking about this from experience, you got to lead from in front, right? Show them what you want, be part of them, understand they're human, understand that you're not going to get robots. They're stressed out at home. Things are going on in their lives. Be empathetic of that. Be understanding of that. Be sympathetic, and let them know, like, you don't have to stop your personal feelings at the door. Yeah, I think it was.
You know,
I don't know. That was an old cliche. They're just like, oh, when you get through the door, you're in business mode, and they just expect you to drop all your personal feelings, outside, and everything you're going through in your life outside, and that's not life. Like
that's
you're gonna,
bullshit. That was never like that.
yeah. And that was the biggest. I said, look, I understand you're human, so if you're having a bad day, come tell me. Like, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, just you'll get through it. Like, let's figure it out. And just treating them as human beings, as a leader, as a manager, as a business owner, that's what's going to keep people loyal to you. That's what's going to keep people, interested in what you're doing and want to grow with you and not look for the next opportunity that comes along. So,
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I've had staff just this last week. Some of my leadership team. I didn't openly tell them that I was going to be moving because I was still operational and working to a point,
right.
Up until the extended couple of days that I didn't expect to be offline. But it was at that point I'm like, hey guys, look, just giving you a heads up. I'm going to be a little slow to respond because I haven't got a computer set up right now. I don't have a desk to work from, and it's chaotic because I'm in the middle of a move. And they're like, oh no, sir, we know how much crap you've got. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Dude, we've been there. We know what it's like. Don't worry, we've got you covered. And they just took care of stuff. It was amazing, right? You'd be surprised if you've got a good team and you treat them right, they will look after you. And they will help you through those times when you get, it's hard and it's tough. But you've got to remember that they go through tough times. You know how many
times breeds loyalty.
It does, right? I mean, how many times we get, I have my HR team come and go, hey, look, somebody's asked for a day off and they haven't put in the 14 days notice that we normally require for it. I'm like, who is it? Okay. What's it for? Oh, like this. Yeah, give it to them. Oh, so it's unpaid? No, it's paid. They got credit? Yeah. Let them use it. Go for it. But they're not doing it all the time. Let's do it. It's all good. It's a rule. It doesn't have to be enforced.
It's crazy.
It's just a guideline.
Yeah, and it actually goes to the idea now that some companies are moving towards unlimited PTO. Right? You have your responsibilities at work, and then you treat those people that abuse it as the exception. You know what I mean? And so many times we want to make the rules for the exceptions. We try to solve every one of the exceptions in your rule, and that's not how rules are meant to be made, right? Rules are meant to be for the mass, and then if there is an exception, that's when you treat it as such. So I like the idea. It intrigues me. I've never worked for an organization that has the unlimited PTO rule, but it intrigues me because I'm interested, and maybe if you work for an organization like this or you have it in your business, like share down below, comment down below, what are the expectations of the employees? Like I'm pretty sure, kind of going back to the first part of our conversation, that there has to be very clear KPIs, very clear outcomes that they should be, kind of delivering on in order for it actually to work. Because it's like, hey, I'm hiring you, and this is where, before I decided to go full-time in Triumph, Business Solutions, I was in that sort of fork in the road stage of, do I want to stay in corporate? Do I want to take what I was doing part-time and go full-time? And I was at that, kind of had a couple interviews, and for me, it was one of those things where it's just like, you know what, you're hiring me for an outcome, right? You don't want to pay me an hour. You want to hire me as a full-time, CFO, director of finance, whatever. You're hiring me to provide impact to your business. You're not hiring me just for 40 hours a week, right? And so it's on me to be able to, if I can provide that to your business in 30 hours, to be able to do it in 30 hours versus me just having to fill up 40 hours in my week, right? And to lead a team effectively. And so if I can make that happen in less time, does that make me less valuable, or do I still get the full salary? Because ultimately, your salary is what you feel like that outcome is worth to your business.
Yeah.
And if the person you bring in can be more effective and do that for you, how are you hiring it? you know, and so
And look, and this
really
is
eye
an
opener when you
interesting
start to
point,
think about
right?
doing it that way, right?
Some roles, yes, you're going to need somebody there from a point A to point B, because they need to man a table, they need to man a phone, they need to be able to respond to people, they need to be able to give customer service. You're in a retail environment, you need to be able to cook food, whatever that may be, because you're in hospitality.
Right.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about your salesperson. There was my wife would tell me stories of back when she worked in BPO industry back in Manila, and they would have their sales boards. And if they hit their targets, they're allowed to shut the computer off and just take a break.
Right.
And she would go hard to hit the target as soon as she could. She'd hit that target, and then she'd take a break. She earned it. That was all the expectation was.
And then it tells you a little bit more about that person, right? If they then come back and still want to do more, because they are not looking to just be the minimum. And now you're able to really begin to see, okay, who's my rocks, who's my rock stars? Because the rocks would hit their targets and then be like, oh, okay, I'm done for the week. I don't need to do any more. Like, it's my minimum.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
Rockstars
and then those people that take a break, reset, come back, and try to do even more, those are your rock stars. Yep. You can easily identify.
That's it. And this is the key, right? Every business has these people. And what I encourage anyone who's listening is work out who your rock stars are in your business. And you're probably going to find your rock stars are pretty minimal, because most of the time they are. Or think about who were the rock stars in your business and you didn't nurture them properly, and what you could have done different to have kept them in your business longer, or not be afraid that they were going to leave, because you being afraid for them leaving probably caused them to leave earlier or prematurely because you didn't nurture what they wanted. And you'd be surprised when you talk to people and you ask them, what made you choose taking this job? Rock stars will rarely tell you it's the salary.
No, it's the opportunity.
It's the opportunity.
It's the opportunity.
That's it. And it's a different. So one thing we've started doing is, with all our new staffing coming on board, is we've started putting them through some basic assessments. And I know this is like one of those scenarios where people go, well, why do you need to? Well, because what I want to do and what I've started doing is taking those assessments and putting them through an AI system that I've built, which tells me how to communicate better with each one of them, where they excel, where they could be upskilled, and how do they respond better in different instruction modes or training modes. And ironically, the first few that I tried this with and shared that information with the clients, they instantly started seeing better results within a week or two, because they changed their approach to communicating. Because sometimes it's not the employee who has to change the way they communicate. It's the manager or the leadership needs to change the way they communicate to get more out of that employee.
Right.
It's got to be a little bit of a give and take scenario in play. And I was really impressed with that. So I'm going across the board on all levels and doing the same testing, running those scenarios and building out these tools. And one of the things that we are doing for our outsourced staffing clients is we're providing them the chat tool to allow them to run scenarios through it. And they can actually have conversations and see how their conversation, the way they want to present it, may play out based on the assessment results.
Love it.
And it's a little rudimentary, I guess, but you know what? We'll probably try running a scenario where we do the retesting in 6 months, and then we'll see how that differs to the original testing, and then update those profiles. And then, because people evolve, people upskill, they get better skills, they learn new skills, and what works today may not work in 6 months. But it's something we're trialing and something we're testing. We're getting great results from it right now. And it's all about just trying to, like you said before, understand our employees better, because we're not always, when you've got multiple employees, you're not always going to know what's going on in their life. You're not going to know what's happening. And HR teams are generally too stretched thin to be proactively reaching out to people and say, hey, how's things going? Do you need a mental health day? Are you good? You know,
But
we've
you
had
as the
staff.
owner, when you start running a business, you make it the priority to be checking in on people. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't take you a lot, especially if as you're growing, like you're not going to have 10,000 employees. Like
No,
you're not head of Amazon right now, right? At
no.
most, the majority of you watching the show, the majority of you will end up with 10 employees or less. There is no reason why you can't, as an owner of your business, be checking in on your employees. How are things going? Seeing what you can do better, seeing what your company can do better, and then figuring out how can you do it if it
Yeah.
makes sense, right? We're not asking for too much. Right. So,
And if it's not you, and you do get to the point where you're bigger, assign individuals within your business with that's part of their role.
even then,
Have
like
their,
the one CEO I had, when I was in the executive team, we didn't always see eye to eye. But I will say that one thing that she did great was she tried to actually like send handwritten notes to the employees every once in a while, like everybody, not just like her direct, like the front level, and it was actually like an improvement because come to find out when she initially became the CEO, she didn't do any of that. She would like come up the back stairs and then go directly into her office so she didn't have to see anybody. It wasn't like her comfort zone. But she got out of that. And then when I was there, she was doing these things. And so it did a little bit to build up, right? And people can see you, even the CEO of a company that had 200 employees, still took the time to maybe handwrite a note. And it's not like, you just pick 5 to 7 employees every week and you write something or send them a text message or send them a personalized email that just says, hey, I just want to, I saw your name come across on the employee list, thought of you, just wanted to say, hope everything's fine. If there's anything we can do better for you, let me know, open door, or reach out to your manager and they can let me know. Great.
yeah.
That's huge, but I think all too often leaders, especially business owners and, you just get overwhelmed and you don't even think about that. You just think, oh, well, they're just employees. They'll just keep going. Like, no, you have to treat them. You wouldn't let
Yeah.
your significant other go, months and months and months without you, in terms of like checking on them and seeing how they're doing. Would you? No.
Well, it's funny you
You
say
have
that. My
to-
wife is really good at this. She heads up the HR. Pre-COVID, we were running about 30 staff roughly. And what she would do is every month she would have a random selection of 3 staff and she would invite them out for dinner. And there would be 4 of them go out to her and 3 staff would go out to dinner. And it'd just be like hanging out, getting to have a conversation.
Right.
Each person was from a different department, so they probably didn't get to spend a lot of time face to face spending, doing things and chatting very often. They knew of each other, of course, because it was still a small team.
Yeah.
But over a period of 12 months, everybody went out for dinner. And I was really impressed with how excited they all were about it. And what she would do is she'd include each one of them in that month, and she'd include them in a little group chat and talk to them about, so where do you guys want to go? Do you want to go out for Mexican? Do you want to go out for some Chinese? Do you want to go out for some grill? What do you burgers? What do you feel like? And they would feel like it was they were included in the conversation, and it was great. They'd all turn up, they'd all rave about it, they'd post pictures online about it.
Good idea.
Like Filipinos tend to do, but it was great and it was really good. And it's something that, we want to start doing again this year. Even though we've got a remote team, most of the team lives within the region that we're in. So it's something that we want to be able to do because we've got a hybrid team, some in the office, some from home. And I think it's a great way. You just reminded me that it's something we should definitely look at introducing again. I know my wife has mentioned it, and then we started moving and life got busy. But it's something I think
life
we need to spend more time. So I mean, look, I think we need to, as business owners, we need to take accountability that it's our job to try and make everyone feel comfortable, happy, and welcome in our business. And sometimes it's just giving them a little bit of our time. It's not always about anything more than just giving them a little bit of our time. And you may be surprised. You may hear some great ideas that you just by giving them a bit of your time. I know that some of my
again, you treat them like humans, right? You treat them like they're part of your they're part of your circle. They're part of your realm.
Yeah.
and they're gonna feel welcome. They're gonna feel appreciated. I love that idea. Like, again, I highly encourage you guys to pick that back up and then maybe report back on it. Maybe get some feedback. What actually
Yeah,
what might be interesting is the people that you decide to do it with is have a survey with about the business beforehand, and then get maybe a couple days later ask a follow-up survey of those same people and see how they kind of feel and if it actually made a change in terms of
yeah,
like their feeling towards the organization, feeling towards their job, feeling towards, kind of how you guys care about them. Because you'd be surprised how just probably something as small as that is going to have a big shift. And this
absolutely.
is
Look,
why a lot of these like KPI things, a lot of these surveys, they're not just do it once and forget about it. These are
no,
things that have to be a regular process in your business. Just like with your prospects, your employees are the same ways. You have to do regular outreaches, regular follow-ups in order for things to, take effect, in order for them to actually be changed. It's not just, hey,
well,
let's
it's
do
like
it once. Oh,
habits.
okay, we check that off. Like, it's not a checkbox thing that you have to do as a responsibility. Like, it's not just, oh, the box is checked, let me be done with it. Like, no, it's something that recurs all the time. You have to do it.
Well, it's like learning good habits. Developing good habits. You have to do them regularly. You have to build it into a routine as it becomes normal.
Yep.
It becomes part of the regular conversation. And I think that's something that's really interesting. Like, I know that when I do stand-up meetings, I typically have 3 questions that I go with. What did you achieve yesterday? What have you achieved today or plan to achieve today? And what's stopping you from achieving what you need to achieve or you want to achieve? Those 3 questions in some variation is typically where I take the conversation whenever I'm doing my stand-up meetings. And it doesn't have to be work related. Sometimes you can take that and do the same thing on a personal level with people as well.
Right.
So
So
if you're not sure where to start,
I'm gonna give you
start really
some
simple.
critique. I'm gonna give you some critique, right? Because every
Mm,
single one of those questions is about them, right? About their outcome for you, right? To your benefit, your expectations of them. Ask the question instead of saying like, "What is it that's stopping you?" Right? From completing. Ask it in the way of, "Is there anything that I can do for you that's going to help you?"
I like it.
Because that changes that last question from blame or not blaming. Like in their mind, they see it as blame, like, "Oh my god, like I'm failing,"
Mm,
versus, "Hey, Warren is concerned and wants to know how and what he can do for me to help
he
me
can
reach my
help.
goals." Right.
Yeah, I
And
like it.
and so instead of saying like, "What did you get done?" Right? Just be like, "How do you feel how yesterday went?" You know what I mean? How did you feel how your day was yesterday?
I like it.
Do you feel like anything is standing in your way from being as productive as you can be? And then finally, what can we provide for you to help you be and reach what you feel that you need to do at your job? And then now these take all of that off of them and comes from a perspective of you being interested in them.
I like it, Dave. You should be a business consultant, Dave. You've got some good ideas around this.
Oh man, I love it.
I
Holy cow,
love
it's
it.
it's been an hour and 20 minutes. It's like every week we go a little bit longer and it's like pretty soon we're gonna
Well,
be
you know
half a
what? It's been
morning.
a great chat, though. It's been a good
Yeah.
conversation. We've covered a lot of
We
things
didn't even
today.
cover the other topic we wanted to actually talk about possibly this morning.
No, but
But
we can
again,
save that till next week.
business unscripted, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're watching this, I appreciate it. If you made it all the way to the end, we love you. Again, we're on a mission at Triumph Business Solutions to impact 1,000 business owners just like you by the end of 2028, whether it's through this podcast, whether it's through working with them, making some sort of impact. So hopefully there's maybe 1 or 2 things that you heard today that you're going to be able to take away, implement in your business. And if you have, drop a comment down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that fun algorithm stuff. But Duarn, what's that one thing that you hope that they take away from today's episode?
Well, I think from personal experience now, take a minute, take an hour, reflect on what people are saying to you, and before you decide to react. And you don't need to take personal accountability for everything that goes wrong within your own business, whether it's from something your staff have done or you've done from someone else's point of view. Take a minute and try and reflect on it before reacting. And in a lot of cases, you're going to find that it's not as dramatic or drama filled as you originally thought it might be. and you'll come at it from a clear space, a clear thought process, and a little bit more logical. And next time you plan on getting on the keyboard and typing a message out to somebody to try and explain your situation, ask yourself, is this something that would be better done in person, on a call, in a video call, or even just a quick video recording or an audio recording?
Right.
You know, try, there's so many different ways to send messages these days, and text messaging or a text-based content is not always the best way to do it, especially with tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and that can generate all this stuff. Even if it says it really, really well, sometimes just a personal voice on a message can mean so much more.
100%. Love it. I think for me, the takeaway is to understand how important your role is as a business owner. And it's not just to gather the profit checks and the big paydays at the end of the day. Like, your role is to truly cultivate people in your business. You have a responsibility to their life as well. And, I say it all the time is, when you make a change, when you make an improvement in your life as a business owner, it has ripple effects. It's like a rock being thrown in a still body of water. That initial ripple, that's you. And then every other ripple outside of that is every single person that is in your sphere, right? Right away, it's probably going to be your family. Then it's going to be your employees. Then it's going to be the business in general. And then it's community, because when you start growing, your business starts being stronger, you get to start making an impact in those people around you. And it is those ripples of effects. So take responsibility for that. And if you're maybe struggling or you don't know how to be a leader, or maybe there's things that you got going on, again, drop the question down below and listen back to today's episode. I think there's a lot of good points that we chatted about today about being an effective leader, about understanding, employees and, leadership. And, even if you have one employee, it's fine. Like, you still can do these different type of tactics with one employee.
Sometimes
so with that,
it's more critical when you've only got one employee than it is when you've got 10 or 20. Because you've only got one person that you're communicating with, and getting it right.
And if that person leaves, thinks, like it's a big impact, because now you got to take care of all the responsibility. Whereas when you have 20 and you lose an employee, okay, maybe, it hurts, but maybe the other people can pick up the slack for a little bit. Yeah. And so, it's just like having one big client versus having 20 smaller clients. We can lose one and it's fine. When you have one big client and you lose it, it's catastrophic. So you cultivate even from your first employee or not. So yeah, if you listen and you got something out of this, or maybe somebody in your network, please share this video. You're more than happy to share any one of our clips. Make sure you subscribe to any one of our channels. We share clips on a regular basis from these podcasts, and we look forward to it. We look forward to seeing you every Friday morning at 8:15 in the morning. So until then, Warren, thanks for joining me. And we'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.
See you, everyone. Thanks.